All right, it is 2:30. It is Tuesday afternoon, and I am recording here a new intro for this episode, which I thought was done about 4 hours ago. Mike Giardi came on. We did a belated Mike Giardi Monday, broke down all of the Patriots' potential matchups in the wildcard round of the playoffs, whether they see the Chargers or the Bills or the Texans. You will soon be prepared with all the numbers and the matchups and things that you will need before that happens after whatever transpires this Sunday when they host Miami in the regular season finale. We also covered our film notes, as we're wont to do, from their last game, which in this case was a 42-10 pantsing of the New York Jets, and got into a special edition of Okay, Let Me Have It with a special guest and some dad pod. Well, we are recording this new intro because since we finished, Stefon Diggs has been formally charged with misdemeanor assault and felony strangulation or suffocation. This stems from an incident on December 2nd, and the alleged assault involved his personal chef, a woman who had been staying with him at an address in Dedham. The police report, has since been released, and with it, details of this incident. I'm going to run down some of these details. I'm going to give you the statement from the Patriots, Diggs' attorney, and what the next steps are going to be with this case and wherever it might lead in the investigation. But first, I'm going to emphasize three things. Number one, you absolutely do not have to rush to any type of judgment here. You do not have to go to Twitter or jump to Blue Sky or Facebook or wherever you want to go in social media with any kind of take. You can just sit there and see how this unfolds. Number two, I understand that you, probable Patriots fan listening to this podcast, immediately thought about their playoff positioning and what this means if Diggs is out, if he's on the commissioner's exempt list, if they continue just to play him, the locker room dynamic, culture, yada, yada, yada. And we'll get to that. But this should go without saying. An alleged crime, an alleged assault, an alleged strangulation is more important than football. This is not a tragedy for the Patriots, who've had a wonderful season, have an extraordinarily bright future, and are a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. The Patriots are not the victim here. Football is not the victim here, if there is one. Number three, the statements, which I will read, are often all the same in these incidents. And it doesn't matter the crime or what happened or the situation. The team in the league are going to say some version, and they did, of we're aware, ... we have no further comment at this time. And the attorney, being the defense attorney, is going to say we categorically deny these charges, yada, yada, yada. And that's exactly what they did. So what matters is, in each specific case, is what makes it unique. And those are the details of the police report and any details of an ensuing investigation. All we have right now is the police report. So I'm going to share what we have from there, the most important parts of what was released today, and then get to the football implications and what's going to happen next, because Stefon Diggs usually speaks on a Wednesday, which means he will be addressing reporters if he keeps up his weekly schedule in less than 24 hours. So this is what we're going to get to. Again, this all stems from an incident on December 2nd, an alleged assault between Diggs and a personal chef, a woman who had been staying with him at an address in Dedham. Now, again, this has been denied by Diggs through his attorney. The Patriots have said, quote, we support Stefon, something that caught my eye, which we'll get to in a moment. But here is what happened according to the police report. The woman said that Diggs entered her, quote, unlocked bedroom, end quote, amid an ongoing dispute over money that was owed to her. She told police that Diggs allegedly, quote, smacked her across the face, end quote, as they began discussing payment. He then, quote, tried to choke her using the crook of his elbow around her neck, end quote, and she feared that she might black out. Diggs then allegedly tightened his grip as she tried to pry his arm away, adding, she did, to police, that he allegedly threw her onto the bed and said words to the effect of, quote, thought so. The woman told Diggs via text before the incident and during the incident she hadn't been paid, and he responded in person on December 2nd saying, quote, lies before leaving the room. Now, the woman, police said, was hesitant to come forward with this initially because of Diggs' fame. She told police that he had hired her, meaning Diggs, as her chef back in July, and she was supposed to work through the entire football season with weekly wire payments. She had instead been paid monthly, not weekly, per the agreement, and she believes she still owed for a month's pay, according to the police report. Court documents showed text messages that she allegedly exchanged with Diggs, of which this is a portion of them. Again, these are text messages from the woman to Diggs saying, quote, you will be paying me out for the season and the money you said you would give me. Diggs responded in one of several replies, quote, I don't got to do a MF thing. You can get whoever you want. You got my address. Tell them come take the money. After this alleged assault, the victim told police she left her position and later received messages from Diggs asking her to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. Police then documented multiple attempts to contact Diggs after the report was filed. So there was a hearing today, and it lasted reportedly less than 10 minutes. Diggs did not appear, and his lawyers from a big-time Boston firm, because of course, participated remotely. There was a motion to impound the police report and the details, which was weighed by a judge who went to the side of transparency and said, we will release them. An arraignment is now scheduled for January 23rd, 2 days before the AFC Championship game, which of course depends on whether the Patriots get there or not, but that's the date. So here were the statements. This is from Diggs' attorney. Again, quote, they are unsubstantiated, uncorroborated, and were never investigated because they did not occur, he said, referring to the allegations. The timing and motivation for these allegations is crystal clear. They are the direct result of an employee-employer financial dispute that was not resolved to the employee's satisfaction. Stefon looks forward to establishing the truth in a court of law. A statement I received from the team upon requesting one went as follows. The New England Patriots are aware of the accusations that have been made regarding Stefon Diggs. Stefon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefon. We will continue to gather information and will cooperate fully with the appropriate authorities and the NFL as necessary. Out of respect for all parties involved, and given that this is an ongoing legal matter, we will have no further comment at this time. Now, some details omitted in that rundown I have there. I mentioned that the woman did not come forth immediately. There was some back and forth, according to the police report, of when she came forward with details and then weighed her options and then opted to choose and pursue them. So this went back and forth for a little while. But the bottom line is she has chosen to do this. I understand that there's a portion of the fan base who naturally is going to go and instantly jump to, again, judgment that this woman might be attempting to extort Stefon Diggs in a way that there have certainly been examples of in the past with famous people. Statistically, those incidents, those examples are complete outliers. So again, you do not need to rush to judgment one way or another. Those are simply the facts. Now, what happens next? Oh, and the league, by the way, this was their statement. They said, we're aware of the matter, have been in contact with the club. We have no further comment at this time. So there you go. What happens next is this. This is in the hands of the Patriots and the NFL. The NFL can place him on the commissioner's exempt list because a felony charge meets the criteria for any player who goes on paid administrative leave, meaning the commissioner's exempt list. Here is the quote, or the clause, I should say. When a player is formally charged with 1, a felony offense, or 2, a crime of violence, meaning that he is accused of having used physical force or a weapon to injure or threaten a person or animal, or of having engaged in sexual assault by force or against a person who is incapable of giving consent, yada, 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 the league can move forward with that. So it meets the criteria. The league, if it wants to, is protected by its own bylaws to be able to put Stefon Diggs on administrative leave indefinitely. He's out of the picture. That's it. The reason this is also up to the Patriots is that they can just sit him anytime that they want. But the statement I read you indicates that they will not, because everything in that statement from the Patriots was standard by the book stuff. Like I said at the beginning, you can predict what these statements are going to be almost regardless of whatever the hell happened, except for this part. Quote, we support Stefon. I am not here saying that is right or wrong. I don't have any more information than basically what I just read off to you. My point is, last year, when Jabril Peppers went through not a similar incident, but certainly one where he was charged with violence, okay, a serious domestic violence incident, the Patriots sat tight. He had video that he supplied to them, and their silence and their inaction really spoke loudest at the time for an ownership group that has made their stance clear about domestic violence incidents and that they do not tolerate them. We can go back and forth about what that definition of tolerance is, but the point is, at that time when I reached out to some folks within the organization, they made that same point to me as I just made to you. If the Crafts haven't done nothing, what does that tell you? That they've probably been satisfied with whatever video or evidence that Jabril had, that they don't have to move forward. They can let the league put him on the exempt list. That's exactly what the league did. Jabril was able to come back, and that case was resolved in a way that Jabril claimed some sort of victory there in court. So, again, not projecting whatever happens next with Stefon Diggs, but in this case, that part of the statement, we support Stefon, indicates to me that to some level, based on whatever's available now, that the evidence that Stefon has with regards to this alleged incident or the lack of evidence provided by the alleged victim is enough to satisfy them. Because again, they've had time now to decide, do we want to sit him? Do we want to do nothing? And so we'll find out. Mike Vrabel is going to speak tomorrow. That is a fact. It'll be just afternoon. Diggs, again, typically talks after that in the locker room. And Drake Maye talks after practice, which is usually about 4:30. The last thing I'll leave you with is a personal commentary here, which is not to rush to judgment and go against what I advised you right off the top. There's a reason Stefon Diggs was not the Patriots' plan A or plan B and was at best their plan C in free agency. This is not stuff I am saying now. It is what I reported at the time with Doug Kyde. He can be a volatile person. You can see his exit in Minnesota and Buffalo, and not all of that was strictly on the field. In New England, let's be clear, his on-field performance has been outstanding. Teammates have lauded his leadership left and right. Drake Maye said after the Baltimore win, he means more to us than you guys even know. That standing within the locker room is now at least clouded, as I see it, by this incident. A serious one. Has to be on a personal level. If you had a coworker going through like something like this, charged with something like this, if I did, and we know the comparisons in normal workplaces are fraught when you go compare them to the NFL, which is a league of legalized violence, makes him at best unsettled. I am curious what level of spotlight the Patriots allow or place on Stefon Diggs moving forward in a way that he was breaking down the team in that huddle in Baltimore. Did they know then? I don't know. The point is, the situation at best is kind of shaky right there in the locker room. We will let players speak for themselves. The coaches speak for themselves. But this is not nothing. Okay, this is a serious alleged assault, serious charges, and we should all let this play out moving forward. So, with that, here comes football for the next hour plus. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode, and I did too, till we had to do this. But we're moving forward. Appreciate you as always for listening and watching. All right, so we're Mike Giardi Monday on a Tuesday morning. We are not imbibing, of course. It is 9:55, but we are vibing here on the nightly, kooky, kosher, ketchup positive CLNS Media Network. Patriots won another game. Ketchup positive? What? I like ketchup. You don't like ketchup?
I do, but that was weird. All right, go ahead.
It was originally going to be kookaburra. It's a rare bird made more famous by a John Oliver episode where I think they made it the national bird of Australia. And if you think I'm saying nonsense words that you're worried about my sleep or maybe I've had a stroke, you'd be fair to worry. But honest to God, I might be mispronouncing it, but the kookaburra, there's an episode of John Oliver. It's a very famous bird. They put it up. There was a vote, a fake one. Anyway, go look at it. Look, we're going to talk a little Pats-Jets today because that's what we do here early in the week is to break down all of the film. You don't need to break down the film to understand that was just a straight up ass kicking. Am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I wrote it yesterday. It was just sort of like that's what you were supposed to do, right? Like they had some excuses built in, the number of injuries, right? The Mack Hollins news that we got on Friday. And you're just like, oh, but then you're like, it's the freaking Jets and the Jets don't care anymore. And they're losing by 30 points every single week. So you don't have an excuse. Just go in there, put your foot on their throat and choke them out right away. And that's exactly what they did. As we know, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. I mean, I couldn't have drawn it up any more perfectly for Mike Vrabel. Like that's the killer instinct. That's as Stefon Diggs said, he was getting on our ass all week to finish. They finished and they finished it early in that game.
Killer instinct was my takeaway. Like we used to do this and then more openly about what was this game about. And then nowadays, these weeks, I should say, we just kind of get into it more naturally. But like that was my column. Like, they didn't have the killer instinct, their ability to finish off Buffalo. They're still holding on to that as and you have to come back versus Baltimore, which is great. But what do you do when you're up? When you're comfortable, are you still pedal to the metal? Or as you just said, foot on the throat, which got me wondering, by the way, stepping on the throat, shoving it down somebody's throat, ripping the heart out, which is the most frightening of the very violent phrases that we all just casually throw around when we're talking about games like this?
I mean, it's ripping the heart out, right? I mean, someone would reach into your chest, and that's going to hurt for starters, somehow to get yourself in there, and then you're going to just pull the thing out. Here, look what I got. Yeah, that would suck.
The only thing that softens that a little bit is that was an actual scene in Dumb and Dumber, a movie very close to my heart. In fact, closer to my heart than some people in my life. But the point is, I think you're right. Also, maybe a reason why the Jets roped off midfield 25-25 after the game, in which was it because they'd been labeled and treated as a crime scene? I don't know, but that's how bad this was. So the point is, we know what happened. You and I are still going to get into Drake's A++ or B++ game, as we were texting yesterday. Stuff that you missed, and then more importantly, what to expect from the Chargers, the Texans, or the Bills again, which are all three of the Patriots' playoff opponents potentially here in the wild card round. And look, it seems likely they'll see the Chargers, but the last time the Patriots won the division, you'll remember, 2019, they go into their season finale at home, Dolphins, the tanking, terrible Miami Dolphins. They got this. The spread was 17. They didn't got this. And so for them, I look at this and go, I know it's Trey Lance and I know it's Denver. Weird shit happens. So we're going to prepare for all the teams like I know the Patriots are, even if we all go, yeah, Justin Herbert's going to come in here next Sunday. And then we'll get the dad pod and let me have it. So the Jets, do you want to just do Drake off the top?
Yeah, let's get, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, here are the numbers in case people miss these. Plus the stat that I've tweeted and I've said on television and the radio because I just can't get enough of it. 19 to 21 for 256, 5 touchdowns, 22 rushing yards. Near perfect statistically. QBR broke, I think. ESPN announced, I'm sorry, we can't use this for week 18. We have to fix the machine that spits out all the QBR numbers. It's never seen a game like this. Best game ever recorded by QBR. That's not the stat, though. Here's the stat. After Sunday, Drake Maye now has 2 games in which he's had 20 or more pass attempts and fewer than 3 completions, meaning 0, 1, or 2 of those passes hit the ground. You know how many games Tom Brady did that in 23 years?
Never.
Once. So Drake Maye now has 2 games in fewer
What was
than
the game?
30
Jacksonville? Do you remember?
Keep going. Keep going. Yep.
Jacksonville playoff game, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
26 of 28, maybe?
Okay, stop. I don't. You're dogging the rest of us. You were just slow playing. 26-28, 3 touchdowns. That Jaguars game when they said, "Hey, we're going to take care of Randy Moss and good luck." Tom Brady says, "I don't need luck. I've got Wes Welker." And
Yeah, that was an awesome game. I truly that was one of those games. I remember looking at the numbers afterwards and being like, that was stupid. He just literally did whatever he wanted to do at all times against. I thought that was a decent Jags team, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a good Jags team. And this is not to extend, of course, the Drake Maye to Brady comparisons anymore. It's just to say, though, that even understanding the Jets have a historically bad pass defense, Drake is doing things that we never saw from the greatest quarterback of all time. And it's not just the accuracy. It is not just the processing. And it's not just the extending plays and the bazooka arm. It's all of it put together with some crazy numbers. Now, a couple more crazy numbers. The Jets said, at some point, we probably have to blitz a little bit. Drake was 6 of 6 for 90 yards and 3 touchdowns against that blitz. Under pressure, he was 7 of 8 for 134 and a touchdown. Not a lot of play action. I think it was a simple plan, but everything that you would want to see from him, it wasn't just done at the level that you had said, okay, this is what you should do. It was done at a level of just Keelan Chason probably put it best yesterday, right? He just gets in a flow state that you can't explain. And again, I get it's the Jets, but that was the only team he could play Sunday. And he, again, outperformed expectations in a way that led to some historic numbers. So that's all of the good. Do you want to get straight to the nitpicking?
No, I mean, no. Continue on your good before I nitpick a little bit.
No, I think we should do it because look,
okay,
it was a near perfect game. Yeah. And I think that has to be the takeaway. If you want to go into the footnotes, which we're going to do here, there was some stuff where I think he was caught forcing a throw here, there, bailed out by a penalty. And that's not to take away from what it was, because those were small plays within a larger game where he knocked out a team in 2.5 quarters. But what were some of those footnotes?
Well, so I just go back to, and it's as I wrote today in musings and on my own pod, I get the grumbling right away that I can't do 19 for 21. Vrabel always says something to this effect of judge the play and the process, don't judge the results, right? So you can look at the results and say, oh, well, that was awesome. But then they sit there and go, well, why didn't you do this? Or that was there, and that was actually the read you were supposed to make, or these sorts of things. Or why didn't you check to this? And there were probably a handful of plays when the game was quote unquote still in. It was never in the balance, but you get my point, where he's in there and they're trying to do some things where he didn't make the right decision or didn't make the right or the most accurate throw in those moments. And so the numbers were awesome. As you said, 19 of 21, and one of those was dropped by Kyle Williams. That might have been his best throw of the game, by the way. Once again, a whole shot down the sidelines to Kyle Williams.
So that was a 2-minute drill, and they look like they're in cover one. They spin into 2, and he's holding the safety, being like,
Yeah. and just a perfect throw. And you're like, oh, Kyle, catch the ball.
Yeah.
But to me, that's just how they look at it. Like, they're not going to sit there and go, oh my God, Drake, you were so awesome. It was so great. They're going to say, Josh McDaniels is going to go, hey, you telegraphed the corner route to Hunter Henry on the opening drive, and then you threw it behind him. And you brought the safety into play. The safety, and because you threw it behind him, the safety almost ended up with an interception. Hunter made it. That's a terrific catch by Hunter. Really strong hands, two guys hanging on him. And he had Hooper on the seam, decided pre-snap that he really wanted Kyle Williams on the go route. Look, gets the DPI. So again, you look at the result of it, you're like, oh, hey, that worked. That's great. He had a walk-in touchdown for Hooper because we've seen him make that throw down the seam, and he had the safety held, and there was this nice window there. And so there were several plays like that. I think it was the 26-yarder.
Several is strong, I think.
I think there were 5. I'd say 5. You drop back 21 times. You have 5 ones where I would say that would be a play that they're going to look back on and say, hey, deliver the ball better to he had Diggs on the crosser against them, and he didn't throw it. And then when he threw it, he didn't lead him, and whatever. It was a 20-yard gain or a 21-yard gain. Again, you're looking at the results going, what are you talking about? It's 21 yards. Drake Maye, when he's playing great, leads him, hits him earlier, and Stefon Diggs probably picks up another 10 yards after the catch. That's all. Like, it's and this goes back to the conversation that we've had, and that you kind of roll your eyes at me from now on. But it's like, I see him in a different light now, and I expect better. And he was really, really good in this game. It was B+, A-. But like, there were plays left that could have made it an A+ game, even if the stats will tell you, and the EPA and all the different things will tell you it was an A+ game. I'll tell you that it wasn't quite an A+ game.
Yeah, bottom line, he was near perfect, and it still could have been better. Right. You and I disagreed on some of those, which again is a good thing, and I don't want to belabor the stuff where we're like, oh, it's actually still really great. No one to get mad. We all know what it was. 42-10 speaks for itself. He gets to sit with 5:31 left in the third quarter. Is what it is. And some of the ball placement, get bailed out about great catches. Cool. Outstanding. Keep it going. That Sunday probably swung the MVP in addition to last night, which we're not going to talk about today because I'm going to save it for later in the week.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at. The one thing that is going to carry over with Drake, I think, from this game too, which is important, is the way that the Patriots worked around some of their injuries. And look, when you have a missing left tackle and a left guard, what do? You plug in the backup left guard and left tackle. So it's not so much schematically there. It's oddly enough what Josh McDaniels did to work around his missing number 3 receiver, which is Mack Hollins, at least statistically. But his role is not number 3 receiver in the way that you would think, okay, you just put this guy in the slot. He is sometimes a de facto tight end as a run blocker. He's sometimes a regular perimeter blocker as a receiver. He's also an insert blocker. Well, you see their run duo, which they did a lot against the Jets. And he's kind of sneaking into the C gap, meaning between the tackle and the actual tight end, to kind of serve as a fullback, more or less. All of which is to say, things that I suspected watching the game, confirmed in the locker room. There were a lot of guys that had to learn new responsibilities because Mack Hollins was out. And Mack Hollins is going to be out at least until the AFC Championship game, if not longer. So what do they do besides, hey, Pop Douglas, you got to do this, Efton Chisholm, Jeff Westover? They played 11 personnel and only 38% of their snaps. When you look at 12 and you look at 21, both were with a fullback and a second halfback, those are both over 10%, as was 22 personnel. So you diversify what you're trying to do. And some of this, I'm sure, was just to rotate guys. But the point is, even though the efficiency of the run game didn't actually improve, it was 41% with their success rate. They got the explosives they wanted, and their pass game, despite diversifying and kind of bulking up, was unbelievably efficient. And that starts with an 83% overall success rate in 11 personnel, 83% success rate in 12 personnel, 75 when they go to 13 with the 3 tight ends, which is really 2 and an extra offensive lineman. The point being, I liked what I saw. Context is what it is, the worst pass defense right now in the league, because some of these answers they're going to have to return to against better defenses, whether it's the Chargers, the Bills, or the Texans, because Mack Hollins is more important than people believe because there's no one-for-one replacement for a guy who can do all the things that I just listed off.
Yeah, and it was really curious to see how they tried to, as you mentioned, fill that role. And even Efton Chisholm at times was sort of inserted into that role and did some things that they would ask Hollins to do. And while he was competitive, You're not. He's not 6'3", 6'4", 225, 230 pounds, right? So you're giving away that size and that edge, and then obviously the veteran experience. Hollins has been doing this for a long time, and recognizes defenses and understands sort of where he's supposed to go and how he's supposed to do it. The Hollins news struck me, and we've been at this place several times now here in the last month and a half, where you're like, you can't afford to lose Will Campbell. Well, they survived Will Campbell. You can't afford, Spillane. Well, they've survived Spillane. You can't afford to lose Milton Williams. They've survived it. It hasn't been perfect, but they've survived it. And then when Hollins goes down, I'm like, oh, that's a tough one. 68, 70% of the snaps, all the different things that they ask him to do. And again, context because of the opponent and the level of talent or lack thereof that they threw out there on Sunday. But at least for 1 week, you were able to manufacture and cover up and still do some of the things that you did with Mack in there. So without Mack in there rather. So it was a good sign. It'll be a different challenge this week because I think Miami's, to their credit, is still playing, still playing for that coach, still playing for the defensive coordinator as well. I think there's a fondness for him in Miami, Anthony Weaver, the DC. And so this will be a challenge. I'm sure that in Miami right now, they're saying, Andrew, let's muck it up for them, just like we did in 2019. I know none of you guys were here, but that was a moment. Let's have a moment. Let's end the season on, this is our Super Bowl. Let's end our season and make them, limp into the playoffs a little bit.
Yeah. Which takes me back with my newborn dad brain. I don't know if I finished that thought. The Patriots lost that game, by the way, 17-point favorites to the Dolphins, who came back.
We all remember.
And Devontae Parker. So look, again, that anything could happen. I don't suspect that Trey Lance will upset them, but that's part of the reason why, as much as the Patriots would love to kind of waltz into Sunday and just take it easy and bench all the guys. And Harold Landry take another week. You probably need it. You got to play this one. You got to take it seriously. Maybe a scoreboard watch. But if not, I will say, the Hollins injury, we had the same reaction. And in retrospect, I look at my past self as almost like, oh, you want to do the hipster thing of this is a bigger deal football-wise than people actually think. I'm sorry. Clearly, you still beat the hell out of the Jets without him and pick your step on their throat, shove it down their throat, rip their heart out, whatever. It all happened. I do think, though, this will matter more against better teams. Mm-hmm. It's not because that's the anxious hipster football analyst thing to say. It's just the way that they're built. Mack Hollins has played more snaps than all of their receivers for a lot of reasons. And now you have to kind of replace that as they move forward. I mentioned the numbers against the blitz. It wasn't just that Drake was good against the blitz. It's how they got to those answers. And one of them was the Rhamondre Stevenson touchdown, which I didn't write this because, we no longer can include clips on Twitter or online. Thank you, NFL, for not promoting your product the best way that we could. But the reason that touchdown was important is because the Patriots correctly anticipated that on this 3rd and 7, I think it was one of Drake's last touchdown passes. It was a wheel route. Everyone remembers it. Hopefully does. The Jets are in this double-A gap mug look that says we're going to line up everybody, 2 linebackers over the center. You don't know who's going to come. This is the whole point of this look. What that does, though, is when you bring up both of your inside linebackers, is it tells the offense, okay, neither of those guys probably has the running back in coverage. So who has them? Well, it's the edge defender who's going to have to peel off. And in this case did when Rhamondre Stevenson left the backfield, gave a little shoulder shake, and has yards of separation. So what did Drake do? Threw a 22-yard touchdown pass like it was nothing, which is to say that stuff is going to scare teams out of blitz looks like that, understanding the Patriots are totally comfortable beating man coverage with that type of tactic and throwing to their running backs because Stevenson looks like himself. So it's not just the big picture numbers. It's the process, like you're saying, that led to the result against the blitz specifically that's going to kind of narrow the menu for defenses who go, okay, how do we want to pressure them? That might be off the table now because that's the second time they've done that, by the way. If you'll remember Demario Douglas being in the backfield against Atlanta, same wheel route, Jalen Walker just took him to the end zone and toasted it.
We're 17 minutes and 36 seconds into the pod. We haven't even mentioned Josh McDaniels' name. And he did, I think, again, consider the opponent, but he did an awesome job in this game. 7 different personnel groupings in the first 7 plays, 8 personnel groupings overall, the variety of motions, and just I've talked to Josh about this before, about the idea of a coordinator, a play caller being on a heater. And he's like, sometimes you do get into a good flow where you're in your head, you're one play ahead, and this is going to go. And then if this happens here, then we go to this, and then you go to that. And, there may be a drive where that all comes together and it all works out. And I had 7 things in my head, and all 7 things came to fruition, and we score a touchdown. They did it 6 straight possessions. They were averaging 10 yards a play through the first 4 series. I think it maybe even went into the 5th. I kind of glossed over at that point because it was happening so quickly and so easily. So a first down every time you touch the ball on average, every play, like stupid. And again, the Jets suck, and the Jets rolled out a bunch of scrubs. Didn't matter. You still did what you did to them. You embarrassed them. And you did it in a variety of ways. So I don't know what. Look, Drake was going to be good this year, regardless of who the coordinator is. Let's be real. They got a good structure in place here with Vrabel, and they got a real staff. And I don't know if it would be worse with coordinator X, Y, or Z. Fact is, Josh is here. Drake has blossomed like nothing we've seen before, or nothing we've seen in recent memory. And it's like, I can't separate the two to a degree, right? I think he's been so critical in Drake's growth this year. There were people that raised eyebrows about the hire for a lot of different reasons. And people around the league were like, I don't know about Josh's system anymore. It all works, baby. It's all worked beautifully.
Great game for Josh. I'll say this too. I'm going to rattle off a bunch of tiny stuff, and then I want to get to the stuff that I want to talk about. People want to listen, but pick one of those things if you like. If not, we'll just move on. Number 1 was that first touchdown to Austin Hooper. Jumbo personnel, same motion, left to right across the formation. Obviously throws to Austin Hooper. That's a 1-man route, by the way. That is a boomer bust. That is a proposal at a ball game. It's all out there. If this doesn't happen, you're kind of screwed. Granted, a lot lower stakes, but the point is, it worked. The second touchdown, Rhamondre Stevenson runs it in. Same formation, same personnel grouping, same motion, and instead of a pass, it is obviously a run for a touchdown. So just smaller stuff like that. Efton Chisholm, 2 catches, 1 touchdown. Great game. Both of those came against man coverage. This is obviously a hand-in-glove fit for what the Patriots want from their slot receivers. He's a developmental player. He did well with his opportunity. This is a good sign. Not a guy I'm counting on in the playoffs. Just file it away for now. Patriots did have 6 run stuffs that they suffered from, and this speaks to the 41% rushing success rate. It's not good, but when you have 6 explosive plays, that papers over that stuff point I made repeatedly again and again. Hunter Henry, great job as a run blocker, like holding up defensive ends. This is not a joke. This is not, I know why you're smiling. Deserves all of the credit for this in a way that was a big game for him as a receiver. Really, really nice job there. Clean sheets and pass protection. Garrett Bradbury, Michael Manu. Morgan Moses, depending how generous you're feeling with Morgan Moses. And Stefon Diggs, who had 101 yards at halftime, 6 catches, 2 against man, spectacular grab along the sideline. The chemistry there with Maye, I've said before, should be studied in a lab. The way that it's happened this fast, and part of it is Steph just downloads football, just gets it, as Josh McDaniels has said, really factors into this. But it does help that the Jets, for whatever reason, didn't want to commit to hard doubles until it was a little too late. So that's something, too, where I think they're going to need answers for, and will, don't get me wrong, but didn't on Sunday and stuff that I'm not taking away. I didn't mention any of the defense, frankly, because Brady can't cook, and that's just all that was. But I did like what I saw from Anthony Jennings and Leonard Taylor, defensive tackle no one's heard of, played well. Revenge game for him, sneaky one. And Chad Muma, nice job. But other than that, like, the run defense was maybe better than I expected. It's just nothing that I think is going to be sticky or relevant moving forward, because they're going to get guys back, and you're obviously going to play much, much, much better offenses than the Jets.
Here's a negative nitpick, because I'll be that guy. The pass rush, like, they dialed up a lot of blitzes. I mean, and that's a good offensive line. Like, of all the pieces that are left in Jetland, the one thing that they can really say, like, hey, that's a good unit, is their offensive line. They obviously have 2 first-round picks at tackle, some high draft picks in the interior, spent some money there. That's a good group. Patriots barely sniffed Brady Cook, and even with dialing up the blitzes, barely got there. So that wasn't great. And again, I get it. No Milton Williams still, no Harold Landry, although Harold hasn't given you much as a pass rusher for the last couple months anyways. But yeah, I'll give you Anthony Jennings. I actually wrote about this today in the musings. It's just about, it's not a great fit for him. And we've seen that. And obviously it was pretty clear from the jump that they wanted to move on from him. And they didn't get that done. He remains here. And a credit to him for being a good teammate and for not moping, because I'm sure he thinks he should play more. And here it is. He gets the most snaps he's gotten all season long, and he played his best game. And against a good offensive line. Again, not a good team, but a good offensive line. So, like, in the back of his head, he's probably going to say, I told you I could do this. I told you I could play. But it's a refreshing reminder that some guys who are on the fringes or not scheme fits or whatever the case may be, who bought into it and have accepted it versus the guys that didn't. Keon White being a perfect example. And they said, you know what? We don't want to see your face. Not that you're a bad guy. We just don't, you go take your face somewhere else. We don't need your moping and I'm getting paid. I don't care. Like, Anthony Jennings has shown up for work every day. His performance has been inconsistent this season when he has played, but like, he's shut up and he's done his job the best he can. And like, there's something to be said for that. I also wanted to point out Jack Gibbons. And you say, we've talked about Jack Gibbons. We all like Jack Gibbons, smart player, good sort of,
the good doctor.
Yeah, good soldier for what Vrabel, has been with Vrabel, knows what Vrabel wants to do, play special teams, the whole thing. Had a real nice play where he deciphered that he was going to get picked, tackled, well, it was a gang tackle, group tackle of Breece Hall on essentially a swing pass on a 3rd and 8. But I want to bring up Jack Gibbons because when Stefon Diggs made that ridiculous catch down the sidelines, he mossed the guy, somehow got his feet in. When they go to the replay, Jack Gibbons, like, I don't know if he was on the bench or if he was just standing in the background, but as you're watching the replay, Jack Gibbons like explodes and like basically comes into the foreground. Like he wanted to go tackle Stefon Diggs because that catch was so awesome. And it was like, I was thinking to myself, this team, and Vrabel has made a point of this with us. I think it was Roche, like, hey, when did you have all the guys standing up on the sidelines for kickoffs? And he's like, Roche, we've been doing that for the last couple of weeks. Glad you noticed. But like this team is into each other. You know what I mean? Like there's a real support that we've seen offense, defense, and guys just go sit down because you're tired and you got to get ready for the net and you're looking at tablets. This group seems to be really engaged in the other guys as the game's going on and the other units as the game's going on. The Baltimore game, the defensive guys are like rooting on the offensive guys are rooting on the defensive guys to get a stop. Like those sorts of things, which, when you're winning makes it easier to do, but there's just been that buy-in and it continues to grow and build. And it was just one of those things that I noticed where you're like, this doesn't mean they won it. This isn't why they won the game or anything, but it's another cool sign about how together this team is.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's what you want.
Yep.
Rooting for him, being around him, being around each other. Stefon Diggs and Jack Gibbons, by the way, I don't know how much I would pay. A little bit to see like a night out, like the highlights if they were to go to the club together or just at a bar, like, they each get to pick one spot to see how that would go. A little bit of an odd couple dynamic there. Look, we taken too long to update. Will Campbell will practice this week, which is a great sign. Keon White still playing a lot in San Francisco, which means the Patriots get their 7th round pick back. So that was just a straight up Keon White 6th round pick. Putting that now to the side, I think we've had enough of the Jets. There's smaller stuff here and there, and I get it, but I just I don't know. I think we've covered all the most important stuff. So playoff time, almost there. And in the meantime, before we get there, people don't want to wait to watch the Patriots win, probably on Sunday. And you know what? Honestly, hopefully, one game of the playoffs. You can win on your own over at PrizePicks, where we are handing out winners, baby. And not winners in the traditional sense, but strictly in the sense of daily fantasy sports. And here's the thing about PrizePicks. All the places, all the books, all the businesses trying to get your attention while you watch sports. I get it. It's a lot. What I'm telling you right now is there's no better or simpler place to win money while you watch sports than PrizePicks, because all you do is pick the players that you want, you pick the stats that you want, and then you go more than or less than. If you do that with 2 to 6 players, that's a lineup. You file a lineup, and that's all that PrizePicks is. And here's the best part as of late, because things can change, as we've seen in Baltimore and then later against the Jets in 2 very different ways for the Patriots. If you hit on 2 players, let's say in a 3-player lineup, you can cash out early now with early payout. So when you pick your players and you pick your stats, you go more than, you get less than. You get 2, boom. You want your money? You have it right now at PrizePicks. And if you still have not played at PrizePicks, here's the best part. You can take the advice we've given, which last week hit more than catches for Stefon Diggs, more than field goals for Nick Folk. You can go download the app today, use code CLNS, and they will give you $50, 50, in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups, 50, after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. That, by the way, goes for basketball and hockey. And I've said it before, staying up a lot with the little one. Spices up my hoops late at night. Portland Clippers, not a problem. I'm with my PrizePicks.
You're a big Denny Avish. I can't even say his name. Avida. Yeah. He's good. However you say it.
So, you know who else is good is the Chargers. And look, if the Patriots win and the Bills win, Patriots are going to see the Chargers. Patriots win, Chargers lose. Chargers are not going to play Justin Herbert on Sunday when they go and play Denver. Denver, of course, if they win and get the number 1 seed, they get the number 1 seed. That's what happens. That's what's seemingly going to happen. So let's talk about the Chargers and then the Texans and the Bills and get out of here. Chargers are 11-5. They're 17th by DVOA, actually a step below the Patriots, where DVOA has been lower and then the consensus the entire year, mostly because they factor in the schedule. Chargers are 19th in offense, 10th in defense, 23rd on special teams. The reasons the Patriots would win, I start here, and we'll go to why they could lose to the Chargers. They have a bad offensive line, and it's mostly due to injury, but this is the worst run-blocking offensive line in football. 23% of their runs have been stuffed at the line. They're the lowest graded at PFF. At PFF, they're also the second worst pass protecting team in football. 56 sacks. They do have good running backs, but if you tackle well, they're probably not going far. So what this is a one-dimensional game almost out of the gate for the Patriots defense if they just don't get in their own way. You also trust your corners versus their receivers, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson. Better than some people think if you haven't checked in on the Chargers. The Ladd McConkey's not been as good as he was last year. And their pass rush is not overwhelming. So they're 19th at pressure rate. Khalil Mack, obviously an issue. I like their defense, but there's a lot there for, okay, if the Patriots win, why will it happen? We know all of those reasons on the front end. And as good as Herbert is, that supporting cast doesn't lend itself to really kind of pressing on the soft spots that the Patriots have with their roster.
Yeah, you were going through some of the numbers. Yeah, 31st in sack rate, 28th in stuff rate, and inept on first and second downs. Like in third down situations more than any team in the league. And so much of this, well, I shouldn't say so much of this is on the offensive coordinator, because when you have 5 different tackles play over 300 snaps this year, and one of those tackles isn't Rashawn Slater, the guy that you paid huge money in the offseason to, and then, of course, got hurt right before the season started, lost for the year. Joe Alt is one of those guys over 300, but barely, and he's been lost for the year. So when you have to go 5 different tackles, you're starting Bobby Hart against Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. It's not going to go well. Like that, Bobby Hart is a journeyman depth piece who's now forced to play left tackle against the best pass rush in football. You're going to struggle, but there is something to the Greg Roman offense that we saw it obviously in the beginning with Lamar. What they crafted worked, and they had great success. Lamar wins his first MVP, but then it sort of hit a point where it just didn't develop. And I feel like they're in the exact same place here where they telegraph a lot of what they do. It is, if you watch the Houston game, it was run on first down, run on second down. Oh, it's third and long. We have a crappy offensive line. Hey, Justin, go make something happen. And he's been so freaking good. Like the nerds love him to the point where people start to push back. We're like, what has he won? Dude is pretty freaking awesome. This has to be, in my mind, the best I've ever seen him play, especially when you consider all that's gone wrong around him, playing with a broken hand. Like just outrageous how well he's played and how often he's kept them in games or won games for them. But that's the first thing I pointed to when I said, why do the Patriots win this game? Even the Patriots pass rush, which is not good, which we just illustrated against this offensive line, and maybe with Milton Williams back, okay, like there should be something there. If you can't get to him, then oh boy, right? Like, and I just think that they will be, and that'll be a big problem for the Chargers.
So, okay, why would the Patriots lose? You already started on this case. It's Justin Herbert, who, despite the broken hand, despite the broken offensive line, still has powered them to an 11-5 season. And there was a clip going around over the weekend when you have blown blocks up front, sheds a tackler, goes downfield, has this incredible extended play, puts the ball on the money despite all of that, and then it gets dropped. Like there's a limitation even on the most influential and powerful position in football about what you can do. And Justin Herbert keeps smacking his head on that limit and that ceiling again and again for this team. But he is top five if you invert it, in turnover worthy play percentage. So, like, despite all of the pressure and things swirling around him, he's holding on to the football, which is to say the Patriots are going to have to beat him straight up in a way that sometimes, as bad as, again, that stuff is around him, he's good enough to beat you. Part of that is Quentin Johnston is finally developed. He's one of 3 receivers with over 700 yards. So you can say, okay, Christian Gonzalez, take one of these 2. There's still going to be places to pick for LA in your pass coverage if you don't get home with your pass rush, which, again, probably isn't going to happen because you didn't really get home even last week against the Jets. And I get Mo Williams will be back, Harold Landry, etc. It's still not an area where the Chargers go, ugh. They're going, okay, we feel a little bit of relief seeing this Patriots pass rush. Flip it around. Patriots offense is now going to face, if they do see the Chargers, the best deep ball defense in the league. That is still Drake May's superpower. They're good generally in coverage and smart enough where, unlike the Jets and unlike Baltimore, I think they do double Diggs on third down, looking at what Buffalo did and goes, okay, that's what we're going to do in critical situations. Derwin James, get a handle on Hunter Henry. Where do you want to go after that? And the Patriots do have some answers, but it's really down then to Kayshon Boutte, or you're taking a risk with Kyle Williams and DeMario Douglas. And I think the Chargers say, fine. And this is the last piece. It's small, but it always comes up in games like this. And he just had a bad game, so the timing is not great. But Cameron Dicker is one of the best kickers in the league. So if this comes down to a 55-yard field goal at the end, you're not feeling great if you're the Patriots. And that's something where I know Andy Borregales has hit those, but we're going to do the cliche side-by-side, check the box, who's got this and that. That kind of kicking in some special teams, which are a little bit better than the Patriots, goes to the Chargers.
Yeah, I would agree with all that stuff. Their pass rush is interesting, right? Because Khalil Mack's not an awesome pass rusher. He's just he's a really good all-around player. And he's obviously, we saw him come in here, whatever that was, a few years ago and have about 17 sacks in a game. He's capable of that, but and I can't say his name. I can never pronounce it. Tui Tuipulotu. Maybe? Question mark.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah, double-digit sacks. Has had a really good year for them. They traded for Odafe Oweh from Baltimore. Wasn't really getting it done in Baltimore. Been a nice addition to their group. And in fact, there was a play in the game that everybody's sort of talking about where he's 30 yards downfield covering someone, running stride for stride with a skill player, and you're like, oh, you're a huge human being. You're not supposed to be able to do this. So he's been a nice piece for them. But by and large, for as good as that, I look at that secondary, and you can look at all the numbers that secondary's put up and the things that they've done. And then this past weekend, they allowed 2 long touchdown passes to Houston. Like, there's just to me, it's almost more scheme in the secondary than it is skill level, aside from Derwin James, who's awesome.
Well, there's something missing, which there always is with the Chargers, which is why we can still say, even with one of the best coaches in football, a floor raiser, a problem fixer, a foundation restorer, Jim Harbaugh. Like, it's just, they're still the Chargers.
There are people in LA that kind of are like, they wonder if because of the floor raising, if it's actually a bad thing, because maybe this roster needs a little bit of infusion of some more talent, but because the quarterback is so good and the head coach is so good and the defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, is probably going to get a head coaching job, or certainly going to get sniffs for it this year, is really good at his job as well, that they're not sort of ending up at the 12th pick in the draft, that maybe that's what they kind of need. They need one of those guys that could be a difference maker, and they're not in position to do it because they have such a good program and they win football games.
Second time you said sniff on the podcast, I'm not uncomfortable yet. First was the Patriots couldn't stiff Brady Cook, and then Jesse Minter is going to be going around stiffing, but a third time might get me there. That's all I've got on the Chargers. Again, if they see them, obviously we'll have much deeper dives, but it's just stuff where I think if they do get LA, the overall sentiment here in New England very quickly is going to be, that's the best case scenario. The Patriots should win at home. Herbert's banged up, yada, yada, yada. Herbert's resting this week. Like, they're going to have the same bye as Denver. They're just getting it earlier. And that guy is still superhuman enough to carry this team into Foxborough and win a game, because this is a smart, well-coached team. It's just a matter of how much can they squeeze around him to give him some support, in the same way that has been the question for the Patriots, given how good Drake Maye has been. And I get the Herbert playoff history, yada, yada. The point is, there should be a little bit more respect for the Chargers than I think we're going to get. We just outlined why.
You're totally not doing the Boston thing. Yeah, but he's benching Herbert because he wants the Patriots. He's disrespecting the Patriots. That's terrible, I know. But that's what I'm already getting that. I tweeted last night.
No. You do not get to run away from that. I'm not even going to wait for let me have it. Okay. That was Arnold Schwarzenegger after 4 martinis. That was not Boston. Oh, my God. How long have you been here? Arnold, it was so great to talk to you. And I don't know why I just tried my own horrible accent. This is infectious now. This is a problem. We need to pause, take a walk.
No. You gotta fight through it. Look. God. I've never claimed to be good at imitations. I'm the guy who can never get the movie lines right. Like, you give me the great movie line and I'll still screw it up, even if I've seen the movie 20 times. But my point being that I'm already starting to get some of that on social media, which whatever. But like last night I tweeted when the Herbert thing happened, I'm like, oh, it's not great for the Patriots because Denver's got the Chargers and and they're the 1 seed and you want the 1 seed. People, do you understand? You want the 1 seed, and it was like, dude, what have you been watching? They want the charge. Like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I don't know how much more clear I can make this. Apparently, I needed to make it clearer for the folks out there. But like, to me, the best way to win a Super Bowl is to play the least games possible. If you don't have to play in round 1, don't play in round 1. One more game allows for more wear and tear. Could allow to an injury. Could allow an upset. Just you want the bye, and obviously it's going to be more difficult with Herbert not playing this week.
The bye is still, the biggest thing. Like, I don't know how I'll pick in the AFC, but I'm leaning Denver because they only need to play 2 games, and you can't lose if you don't play, and they're not going to play in the wild card round as it looks like right now. I'm going to do my best to move on.
I gave you joy at 10:35 in the morning with that invitation.
I hear you. Houston, also 11-5, much better according to DVOA, and I would agree. So, again, going back, Chargers are a best case scenario. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying this are all going to be closer than you think. Mm-hmm. That's where again. Houston, 5th by DVOA, 21st in offense, 2nd on defense, 13th on special teams. They have won 8 straight games. How would the Patriots beat the Texans? Well, the Texans don't run the ball. They're 29th rushing by DVOA. This is another game like LA, where you can put the game on the quarterback's shoulders. Again, when that quarterback is good, he can carry it enough. But the point is, if you just get to play pass coverage and spin the dial all game, advantage to the defense no matter who you're seeing. They're also 30th in red zone offense. And part of that, just like the Patriots, is tied to their inability to just push things across in short yardage. They're only 16th on red zone defense. So as good as this defense has been, once you get inside the 20s, there's an advantage there if you can mine it, if you can pick at it from a coaching schematic standpoint. Speaking of coaching, this is a super conservative team. They have lost, according to Ben Baldwin, who, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. A lot of analytics work. The second most points off of your win probability by not going for it on 4th down. Meaning DeMeco Ryans is a great coach. He's also a portrait of a defensive coach who's more conservative in game than you probably should be. And it's cost them, even a great team, a better chance to win. The only team they're trailing, by the way, is another defensive coach who should be criticized and has been for his in-game decision-making, Mike Tomlin. So I trust Mike Vrabel in-game over DeMeco Ryans, and it's not close. This is the last one because this surprised me. Defensively, they're great. Again, 1 team ahead of them by DVOA. They're only so tackling, and they were bottom 8 last year in terms of missed tackles. They're better now, but it's still below average. So when I look at this and go, they've seen all the screens and the misdirections and this and that and the space plays because you just don't want to deal with the pass rush. Fine. I still think there's some yards to be had there if you keep doing it because they're just not as sound as the Patriots are, the best tackling team in the league right now, in that department. And that's how you get your free yards against a defense that otherwise is kind of suffocating. That's the case for the Patriots to win and beat the Texans.
One counter and 1 point off of that, the tackling point. They're a team that likes to punish. And I think sometimes because they want to make you feel it a little bit extra, guys like Azir Al-Shahir, he's going for kill shots. And there's Petrie will go for a kill. They play more on the edge, more on the, let's call it late 90s, early 2000s football, where that was really part of the game. They sort of have that style that they want to play that way. Granted, a little bit different rules, offense more protected, but they do like to, they don't just wrap sometimes. They want to run right through you and blow you up. On the offensive standpoint, since week 10, since CJ Stroud came back from the concussion that he missed 3 games for, their run game has gotten better. It's still not good by any stretch of the imagination, but they've worked their way back to sort of a league average conversation. 18th in running back success rate, 18th in EPA per play, 16th in net yards per attempt, 8th on third down. And for the first 9 weeks, they were dead last in rushing success. So there has been a turn. They've leaned more on Woody Marks, the rookie, who's had some
good
problems.
Dangerous player.
He's had some problems staying healthy, but when he's been healthy, he has made a difference for them in the backfield. They've semi-settled down the offensive line. Trent Brown was out this past week. That's right, Trent Brown, good old friend Trent Brown, actually playing representable football again, which, for
Jake Andrews, another expatriate at center.
Yep. So that's not a great offensive line. So that would give another one. Like if they've got to come to you, the old thing about offensive line, bad offensive lines don't travel. That would be an interesting one to watch. Whether the Patriots have the strength to take advantage of that remains to be seen. But certainly that would be a check mark that I would put in New England's favor there.
Okay, so here's why they lose. And I think this is obvious, so we can kind of zip through it. Their defense, again, is dominant. They play man coverage and cover one, or they're going to play quarters, and they're going to rush 4, and they're not going to blitz, and they're not going to disguise, and that's it. And they're good enough to line up and just kick your ass. They've won 8 straight doing that. In that time, they've beaten the Jags, they've beaten the Bills, they've beaten the Chargers, 3 playoff teams, and before that, the 49ers, with a very close loss to the Broncos thrown in there. So this is a confident, rolling, pick your point about momentum team. It's there. They're powered by that pass rush. And Danielle Hunter and Willie Anderson, best edge combination in the league. Okay, nobody else has more than 9 quarterback hits. Fine. Like you can't double both of them at all times. They're going to get home. And when they do, they're often causing havoc in terms of forced fumbles, strip sacks, picks. They're third in takeaways. And offensively, they don't give it away. So they're second in turnover differential. All the big box that you want to check, defensive pressure rate, turnovers, explosive plays, they're checking all of those as soon as they walk into the stadium. Offensively, that, again, leaves a lot on CJ Stroud, even though the running game has been better, and I'm glad you brought that up. He's 8th lowest in turnover-worthy play percentage. So you will see the boneheaded plays, and some people watching and just checking into them now be like, oh, you can get CJ Stroud. Yeah, I mean, in the way you can get any quarterback. But when he gets rid of the ball, Nico Collins is a problem. Dalton Schultz is a problem. Jalen Noel is now suddenly a problem. All of their receivers are an issue. And so there's just going to be an ability to play matchup ball. And the same thing about Dicker, which is not, kicker's not an overwhelming point, but Kaimi Fairburn is among the best kickers in the league. So that's another where you play Houston to a draw. They have it last. I'm trusting their kicker to make a big field goal late. And so all of those things are why they've got a deeper, more talented roster, and they do the biggest things well. And that's why I think even if the game was in Foxborough, the Patriots would be underdogs. And I think I would agree.
Yeah, I hear you. I just wrote down why you would lose, and I just wrote down names. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, Jalen Petrie, Derek Stingley, Kwame Lassiter, Sheldon Rankins, Al-Shahir, Kalen Bullock. And that's their defense.
Yeah, Derek Stingley, I didn't even mention, yeah.
Yeah. They have, as of this past week, they had 3 of their 6 defensive backs. And look, sometimes the way you measure these things, but passer rating against 3 of the 6 of the top 6 in the league, passer rating against were their guys. Petrie, Stingley, Bullock. They turn the ball over quite a bit. They're just a really good group, and they will challenge you for sure.
Yeah. I don't think we missed anything there. I mean, this will be a big Josh McDaniels game if it comes to it with Houston, because again, what they're going to run, and they're going to force you more likely than not to slowly move the ball downfield, and having to solve both of those issues on the edge with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter will be a problem, but it's just, I don't know if going 6 offensive linemen is really going to kind of buy you enough time the way that you think. Like, this will be a game where the Patriots defense needs to stand tall in addition to get an early lead to kind of hang on. It's not that they're infallible. It's just that, as the guy who has been saying, the Patriots' toughest opponent is Buffalo, because I would rather ask Drake Maye to engineer a game-winning drive against the Texans defense as opposed to asking the Patriots defense to stop Josh Allen. And that's been my tiebreaker. Don't want to deal with Josh Allen. I think I flipped. I think I would pick Houston now as their worst possible matchup, because it's just a more well-rounded roster, and the way that they've been playing and been tested already suggests to me that I don't have reason to doubt them. Not to mention their previous trips to the playoffs the last 2 years with this core group. If they were to come into Foxborough, it's a tougher test.
You could make the argument, and you have them second in DVOA on defense, but like, you could make the argument that the single best unit in the AFC that's going to make the playoffs is their defense. Patriots offense, but their defense is that good, and can that single-handedly be enough to, hey, CJ, just get us 20. If you get us to 20, they're not getting to 20 on us, or get us to 23. They aren't going to get over 20 on us. Like, that unit, that's the thing that makes me lean. Like, that's the best unit in the AFC. So,
yep, 100%. All right, Buffalo, everyone knows the Bills. Here's where they are: 11-5, 5th in offense, 22nd on defense, 15th on special teams. The reason you win is because theoretically you could run on them. You are familiar at home, but like, look, we could do the cases for and against. This game, if they play it again, is coming down to the fourth quarter and maybe who has the ball last. Like, barring Drake Maye crumpling under a playoff pressure in a way that I just don't think is going to happen. That's what this game is. And it's the simplest, laziest analysis, but that's what we got the first 2 times around. And as they got more familiar with one another, and we all know the Bills want to play straight up offensively. We're going to run the ball. You're going to play man coverage. Who wins those matchups? That's what that side of the ball is going to be. And for the Patriots offensively, just, can you stay patient enough to exploit a soft Bills defense that stood tall against Philly? Granted, that's just what it is. Nothing's really changed about the chessboard and the positioning of this game. And so what it comes down to is a long, prolonged battle. And then what happens at the end? That's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, turnovers, obviously the first game, and you talk to people with the Bills organization, like, yeah, the Patriots came up and beat us. We turned the ball over 3 times. We don't turn the ball over, we win the game. Okay, well, that's the game. That's what happens. But like, you have these moments, and I know but you know how these things work. You talk to people. Yeah. Well, I always just, I get it, but you did. Like, you can't eliminate the turn. It's just like you can't eliminate the 5 turnovers against Pittsburgh. Mark it down, 50-52 on the call sheet here today. So yeah, I don't honestly, I don't have much to add. I think this past weekend was fascinating in the way McDermott handled the end of the game. And I hear the arguments for and against. I actually, in the moment, because I was listening to the game on the radio as I was driving back from Jersey, in the moment, I was like, I get it. Go for it. You feel like you got him on the ropes. Just finish the job here at home. And then, I didn't have the full picture. And then I'm going back and I'm reading and I'm looking at some of the quotes and different things and the numbers in the second half. And I think they had 17 yards of total offense, the Eagles did, or something stupid, or 17 yards passing in the second half. And I'm like, you know what, Sean? You might have been just better off kicking the extra point, going into overtime, because you had solved them. They weren't doing anything against you, and you had, in the fourth quarter, finally figured them out and scored 2 touchdowns. So I get the for and against, but I think maybe, and he was pretty steadfast, like, I would do it again. I would do it again 1,000 times because I have Josh Allen at quarterback. And by the way, the play was there, and Josh with a rare bad miss in that moment. But kind of like looking back on it, being like, you should have just kicked the extra point and gone to overtime because you were kicking their ass in the second half.
Yeah, I was surprised they even went for it in that 4th down, which I understand the stakes, but I thought there was a little bit more time if they wanted to take it. And Sean McDermott's evolution to being a little bit more aggressive, and which isn't to say that's always the right decision, but I think given the way his team is built and the history of what's happened when they've been more conservative, is the right call. And something that you could bank on previously is like, in-game management, I'm going to give this to coaches like Mike Vrabel, who are better at this generally, but that could be a factor against another good team and another good coach who just leans a little bit more conservative. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Milt Williams coming back, Robert Spillane, pieces that were missing or hurt or not 100% from the last meeting. I know people will cling to and say, that's why the Patriots will win round 3. You're not going to get out to a 24-7 lead. the way that you did, and 21-0 against the Bills. That's what I can guarantee too. But I can guarantee it'll be a close game. Let
me ask you a quick one because what we talked about and what was brought up quite a bit after that game was the disguises that Buffalo did, particularly in the second half, and that was not a good half for Drake Maye. Can that be replicated? Or now that you've seen it to that extent, what more can they really do to dress it up? There's only so many ways you can dress up how you want to play it. And now you've seen them twice this year. And in particular, the second game was a lot of heavy disguise. Is he going to be more comfortable now with the extra experience versus it?
Yeah, I think so. And look, part of that was, I think most of it was timing. Like, you only have 19 plays in the second half, and the disguises that you aren't able to sift through in time matter more because you just don't have as many times or extra plays to make up for that. If the Patriots had gotten more time, I don't think that has as big of an impact, which is to say it'll be more the disguises on third down. It's not that the Patriots can't sift through whatever Buffalo's doing. McDaniels is familiar. Bills are good at disguising. But I think that if the Patriots protect Drake Maye, and that's really where it is, right? Disguising comes down to, does it buy your pass rush time, or are you able to fool him into a bad decision down the field where those mistakes happen and you get a turnover? Like, I don't know. I'm not as worried about it, but it is going to be a factor if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious about it because that was a big talking point. And the other thing to me that's going to come out if that ends up being the matchup, whether it's in round one or somehow they see each other later, it's going to be Vrabel needling the hell out of the defensive line and the linebackers going, James Cook had his way with you. Their offensive line kicked your ass. Like, that's embarrassing. Like, I'll just flashback to this week where, by the way, I didn't even catch it in the moment, where Mike Vrabel was like, we couldn't cover Adonai Mitchell the first time we played him. And I was like, duh, light dawns on Marblehead. Little zip to Christian Gonzalez. Hey, Christian, he didn't catch any on you because they screwed it up, but he was open. He beat you. So play better. And he did. That's going to be a week where, like, we couldn't stop James Cook. We got those offensive linemen. We're just doing whatever the hell they want. And there'll be some mention of the lack of holding calls too. At some point that'll get slipped in there just to keep the referees on their toes, remind them that, hey, we played a game against them last time and there was only one holding call against the team that leads the league in holding or whatever it was. So
a little spice, a little salt.
Yeah, that would be, look, that's a matchup that's, I think, scares some Pats fans. I mean, I would love it. Just the sheer theater of third time against the Bills, Josh Allen, Drake Maye. You could have the two MVPs of the last 2 years playing in the same game in the postseason. Come on.
Speaking of needling and speaking of theater, we have a surprise here for our favorite segment. Okay, let me have it. Instead of Mike and I going at one another and the other guy having to sit still for something that was said, of which, I'm not going to touch the Boston Arnold Schwarzenegger that made an appearance and blew my mind that I only recently pieced back together. We instead welcome in Taylor Kyles, teammate here at the CLNS Media Network, because Taylor, I owned up to this on Twitter the other day, back in May, when you were on the 13-win train and you were the conductor and the caboose because you were the only person on the train. I said, what the hell is happening here? You're going to crash. This is insane. Get off now. Apparently you did, but we'll get back to that in a second. Anyway, you are here to let Mike and I have it for doubting you as the one person who said this could be possible. And mind you, you might still be wrong because they could get to 14. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. You let us have it in whatever way that you want, and we will sit here until you are done.
I love you guys, right? So I'm not going to come down too hard. Also, to be fair, John played one of the clips of why I thought that prediction was there. The tenets were strong. There was also some Keon White in there. There was also, they're going to have an elite run game in there. The pass rush is going to be top 5. So, it is very hard to predict an NFL schedule. Go figure. But really, I think my rant is more just going to be hyping up the fans even more, right? Because the whole reason I thought this prediction was going to happen was because you had Mike Vrabel, a guy who'd already won Coach of the Year. You have Josh McDaniels, a guy with an incredible wealth of knowledge and experience, having worked with Tom Brady, adjusted to the type of mobile quarterbacks that he has now in Drake Maye. And then, of course, you have Drake Maye. And just no one thought he was going to be an MVP this year. In my wildest dreams, I think in week 6 after the Saints game, I was like, he, is going to get into the MVP conversation if he keeps up this level of play. But the consistency from a guy this young has been absolutely insane. So, I don't want to come here and pile on you guys too much. I know that is the point of the whole schedule, but I will say, looking back at the comments, it was pretty funny. A little stay off the Zaza action from you, Mr. Callahan. And, I understood at the time why it sounded crazy. To be fair, after that Minnesota joint practice, I feel like we were all kind of like, okay, we got a little more optimistic in the summer. Maybe we take a step back. But, this team has blown away expectation in a crazy way. So thank you for allowing me to be on here and do my tiny little victory lap. But it's also hard to really do that when this team has exceeded expectations in so many different areas. So, hey, see y'all in the playoffs. At the end of the day, we all benefit. It's not like they completely underperformed and everybody's sad and, miserable locker room and everything. So I'm just happy to be here for a good reason.
So 2 things. Number 1, Zaza, is that another weed synonym that we have now? Because
it's a New York thing. I wasn't sure what the policy was, to be honest. So I'm like, why not just say weed?
Don Zanis is not the boss here. I am. This is my podcast. I get to call his media network whatever I want. I do every single episode. We can say weed. We can say marijuana. We can say Mary Jane. We can say whatever we want.
The devil's lettuce is my preference.
Okay, that's why we didn't go to you on that.
Age
we
appropriate.
went to Mr. Zaza. That, of course, was in jest, that selection. And Stephen A. Smith just happened to pop up and have the perfect particular gift for that. It was not pertinent to weed. It wasn't pertinent to anything other than I thought your take was crazy. And lo and behold, it is correct. Number 2, when I was doing TV last night, there was a montage of which Mike Giardi was partly starring in, and I somehow escaped, of a bunch of us saying it's going to top out at 8 or 9 wins. And then Michael Hollins said 6, but we're going to skip over that. You came down to 10 in that montage. Was it the Vikings practice? Because I didn't know that you came off of the 13-win projection in May.
I think it was around that time because the joint practices, we were feeling pretty good. It was because we were like, oh my God, last year they were getting trounced. And now the Commanders, they're making them look bad and they're kind of embarrassing these guys. So I started feeling good. But the Vikings practice, it wasn't even that they were bad. It was just there was a lot of variance there. And given that they also obviously a very good roster, but they had some questions as well. Stefon Diggs cooked at times, but then didn't participate at times. It was just there were some weird things that happened down in Minnesota where I'm thinking, okay, that's the prediction I made when it's pie in the sky and we haven't seen anybody on the field. There's no injuries. Mack Hollins, I don't think had even practiced yet at that point. So there were legitimate questions, and I felt that it was more fair to give them something realistic because as much as I want to hype them up and get people excited, I don't want to set false expectations either. And after the 13 wins, I still did learn a lesson that, maybe was I being fair? Am I kind of putting a standard on these guys that they can't reach? And so I did kind of walk it back a little bit, but really, I think it was that, again, it was the Saints game where obviously that was already well into the season, but where it started to feel like, okay, this might be something special because Drake is doing things so quickly in such a mature way that even in the summer when he was playing well, I didn't think he was going to look like this against NFL competition. So did slightly walk it back, but, hey, at least I was a believer at some point. That's more than I can say for a lot of folks.
The lesson learned is when you put your balls on the table, just leave them there. Everyone's seen them. You might as well just kind of see if we can
really
hold
have to give us that freaking. You're giving me grief for some of the things I did. You just gave us balls on the table.
What do you think that prediction was? If not,
I don't know. Come up with a better way to describe it.
All right, go ahead.
Don't do that. I was going to say for Taylor though, the if that did come around, the reduction to 10 came around the Minnesota thing. They were doing it internally. They were doing it. They were kind of like, hey, everybody, maybe we should just pump the brakes just a little bit. Like we did, that team we saw out there, that they got a little bit more talent than us. And it's going to maybe take us a little longer to adjust than we'd hoped. It's going to be fine. We're going to be good. But, 12, 13 wins, you guys are nuts. Just back it off a little bit. And then to your point, as Kalo on Chason said, it was after the Steelers game, but I think you're right. The Bills, Saints, Bills fourth quarter, second half, whatever. Saints game was all of a sudden it might be back on now.
Right.
And that's where we are, 13-3. I think I mention you once a week in my podcast. I did one yesterday, and I said, once again, not in our wildest dreams. Well, except for Taylor Kyles, who proved to be right. I apologize again. You can shake your ass at me all you want.
And we hugged it out in the locker room. I feel like people think there's beef. We love each other.
Yeah, it's all in fun.
I hate to spoil the very strange fantasies that certain people have on Twitter that there are media beefs just galore. Like it's a deli of just media beefs. No, we're hanging out and we're joking. We can disagree and we chat and we hang out. And honestly, I would say pretty much the entire beat gets along, but that's is what it is. All right, we have to go really quickly though. Taylor, we do another segment called Dad Pod. So I know you're not a father, but I believe you have a pet. You guys have a
yeah. I'm a father of 2 little kitties.
Kitties? Okay, so I'm gonna go quickly, then Giardi, then you could wrap up, and then we gotta go. Dad Pod for me. She's now 7 weeks. Involved buying a Christmas gift for my niece who is over 1 year old, because this is what my sister and I decided. Forget gifts for you, forget gifts for me. Let's just do it for little girls and we'll get out of here. So my sister very lovingly knits a small sweater from scratch. Just absolutely delightful, beautiful, wonderful, very kind gift. So I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we forgot to get one for her daughter. So I go, I've got a good idea. 4 years ago, I took my sister, who is an animal lover, to the Stoneham Zoo. A couple friends of ours had a great time. It's cheap. Great access to the animals. I go, I will get a gift pass for her daughter, and we will go sometime in the off season. Log on, boom, boom. They've got this thing that's like a train, and you can go on, and maybe that's a different view. I don't know what it is. This must be new. We'll do it. Great. So I send her the ticket. She goes, oh, I've never heard of this zoo. I'm like, we were there 4 years ago. No, we weren't. This says Southwick Zoo. So in the heat of my newborn dad brain, I bought a ticket for my sister who lives in New Hampshire to a zoo that is 2.5 hours away down in Rhode Island. So we are now going to take a full day trip as a family to a zoo we've never visited before, which is great. And that new train or whatever they have going on is not new because it does not exist at Stoneham, which is where we're not going. Anyway, she was patient enough with me. I'm looking forward to visiting the Southwick Zoo. If anyone has any tips for this newborn dad brain, other than just look up the right name of the zoo that you want to go to, I would take them. But that will be sometime in the off season, and that's what I got.
A quick aside about the Southwick. I've been there numerous times with my kids when they were little. The very first time we went there, you walk in and there were the big turtles. Turtles were making weird noises.
Oh, no.
Loud noises. And I kind of walked over like, what the hell's going on with the turtles? The turtles were getting it on, people. And you got to, I think my daughter was like 4, and I'm like, let's just go past the. Why are they making that noise? I don't know. He's in pain or something. I don't. Let's go see the monkeys. Let's go see the monkeys.
What sound does a turtle make in that situation?
Not like they're playing or they're wrestling.
I don't know. I don't remember what I said. I just remember being mortified. Like, really, the first time we go to the zoo, this is the first thing that happens in the zoo. I get it. It's nature. Whatever. It's part of nature. But I was not ready for that in that moment.
Mortified by turtle sex. That's all that it takes for you. It's just that's scary.
When you have a 4-year-old with you and they're asking what the hell's going on, yes, you're like, we're not ready for this conversation yet. This is supposed to be like 10 more years down the road before your mother has the conversation with you. I don't want anything to do with it. Boys are
then
bad.
The same thing happened at the monkeys, and he's like, you know what? Maybe don't go to the zoo on Valentine's Day. Maybe that's your mistake.
Yeah, you know what? That's it. I'm out with the zoo. No zoo. I'm done with zoos.
Taylor?
So am I telling a dad story?
Yeah, just anything taken care of. Just something recently. Like I'm going to get a cat actually this year. This was a push present I promised to my wife actually mid-labor. I said, by the way, all of the hating that I've been doing on cats, we're going to get one, which was something I'd really been saving for years. But anyway, yeah, anything related, just quick, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, I was very much not a cat person before I got my 2 angels, and I very much am now. Like, I like other people's cats. I used to actively avoid because I was terrified, but they're awesome. I will give you one tip. Do not feed them before long car rides. Liz and I I made the mistake. So Liz kind of explicitly told me, and I wasn't really thinking about it, like, don't feed them X amount of hours before we're going to drive, because we went to New York, visit her family, and also to go to the game. So like an idiot, I fed them like 2 or 3 hours before we get in the car ride. A lot of turns, like really big turns on the way to New York from Massachusetts, and my poor cats do not have the strongest stomach. So that added another hour to our car ride, trying to figure out what to do about that. So if you do have cats, make sure you are very smart if you are trying to ask them to sit in a car for 4 hours on some winding roads. Just don't put them in that situation in terms of the eating. Feed them in the morning, and then you can feed them when you get to your destination. Otherwise, bring a lot of wet naps and maybe some spare bottoms if you have a little cat carrier.
This is the same way that Giardi's wife has to drive with him. Don't feed him.
Just rubs his belly. It's okay, sweetie.
Yeah.
Yeah, very slowly. He just leans back in the passenger seat. She just rubs over and does like little circles on his tummy. Yeah, she's told me. We talk. Taylor, thank you for popping on.
Thank you, Taylor.
I will be back very soon. Former Patriots captain has come on. He might have his own edition of Okay, Let Me Have It, because he texted me he has a bone to pick with me. So stay tuned for that. Dolphins preview, more playoff talk. Appreciate you both.